Sendhil Ramamurthy, a San Antonio native, is best known for his lead roles in Tim Kring's NBC sci-fi dramas Heroes and Heroes Reborn. He can be currently seen in a recurring role in Mindy Kaling's Netflix show Never Have I Ever, and the CW series show The Flash, from producer Greg Berlanti. Previously, he recurred on NBC's drama series New Amsterdam, starred in a lead role for the Women's Project Theater, as well as the Amblin TV and NBC series Reverie, opposite Sarah Shahi and Dennis Haysbert. Previously, he was seen in Hannah Marks and Joey Powers' romantic comedy After Everything with Marissa Tomei and Joe Keery. In 2016, he starred in Stan Lee's Sky Television series Lucky Man opposite James Nesbitt. He was also seen on the USA series Covert Affairs and had a memorable arc on the final season of NBC's The Office as Mindy Kaling's love interest, as well as the hit on Bravo's series Odd Mom Out. Sendhil also appeared in Liz Garcia's The Lifeguard opposite Kristen Bell, which premiered at Sundance in 2013, and in Gurinder Chadha's comedy It's a Wonderful Afterlife, which premiered at Sundance in 2010. On the theater side, Sendhil starred in the RSC production of Carlo Goldani's A Servant to Two Masters in London's West End, Tom Stoppard's India Inc. at the Soho Repertory Theatre, and Ayub Khan Din's East is East at Manhattan Theatre Club. Sendhil was kind enough to take some time out of his incredibly busy schedule to catch up with us and reminisce about his days in San Antonio, his professional journey that led him to where he is now, and how he's forged a path as a South Asian role model for younger generations. Thank you all for joining us, our virtual audience, for our first virtual Diwali. We have with us this afternoon a very special guest, a son of San Antonio, Sendhil Ramamurthy, all the way from the London to New York stages and from Hollywood to being back in New York on all kinds of programs from Covert Affairs to The Office and now working on something new. You may have seen him on Heroes years ago. And thank you for joining us, Sendhil.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yeah. Now, you grew up in San Antonio, but like most people around the world, and everybody is doing all kinds of different things, acting is different these days. You are probably grounded. And where are you coming to us from?
I'm in New York right now. Just been staying put, really, since I was working in Vancouver in January. I finished the end of January. So I came back to New York in February, and I have not left New York since.
Wow.
Just been locked down, just staying put.
Well, you look like you're in good spirits, but we want to take it back to your time growing up here in San Antonio and tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I have great memories of growing up in San Antonio. I was born in Chicago, but we moved to San Antonio when I was 3. And, it was just, it was a very small Indian community at that point. Literally like a handful of families that were there. It was like a bunch of doctors and their kids. Like when I say a bunch, I mean like 5, 10 families maybe. It was weird. I don't know if it was weird. I didn't really kind of clock that, we're kind of like the only Indians around. It was kind of normal to just, be even like, I remember in my preschool, it was like all white people and then like me and my sister. And then the Kamaras, Varney and Shashi were with us in the same preschool. So we were the Indians and then like all white people. Like that was it. There were no black kids, there was no Hispanics. It was all white people and me, Sujata, Varney, Shashi, that's it. And then slowly, the community started to expand. And I remember, I think I was about 10 and my mom saying on some phone call that there were 200 Indian families. And I thought, that's unbelievable. I was like, we're taking over, 200 Indian families in San Antonio. Now there's like thousands in San Antonio, which is obviously great to see.
And did you grow up, even though your community was small and there weren't many of us here, in terms of celebrations, were they happening at home? Did you have Diwali, grow up celebrating as a kid? What'd you do?
We always did Ganesha Puja at home. The first Ganesha Pujas were always at our house. We would have everybody over. And as the community started to grow, I mean, there'd be like 100, 150, 200 people at our house. And we'd submerge the clay Ganeshas that all the kids made in like the pool. That was supposed to be in the river Ganges, but it was our pool. And then the poor pool guy cleaned up cleaned everything up at the end. But that was it. Like, you made do. There was no Hindu temple of San Antonio. There wasn't the community center. None of that stuff existed yet. So like, these guys were, your parents, my parent, like all these guys who eventually started to show up, kind of made their own community, made an Indian community for themselves in San Antonio. And now it's flourishing. Obviously, you guys get 40,000 people to Diwali celebration now. I could have never even imagined that when I was growing up in San Antonio.
Right. I remember as a kid going to the Texas Folklife Festival and handing
Yep.
out drink coupons during
That was
the
me.
Indian booth.
That was me. Texas Folklife Festival, Niosa, we used to always go to. Texas Folklife Festival, I manned the drink. We made a drink, I remember, called the Suicide, and it was just like splashes of all the drinks put together. So it was like Sunkissed and Coke and Dr. Pepper and Big Red and Sprite, and like, all in one, like just this massive sugar, like diabetic coma drink. It was really popular. Like, we'd have people coming up to us being like kids, not adults, saying, we'd like a Suicide, please. And we dole them out.
The privileges of having access to free tap soda.
Well, you got to work every angle, don't you?
Now, you also, I remember you talking about your mom forcing you to participate in skits and dances, which maybe was not of your interest, but you ended up doing it.
Yeah.
So some might argue that she actually gave you a start to your stage and acting career.
You know what? She definitely did, because it was the rehearsals, that I would complain about having to do. But once I actually got to the rehearsal, I really enjoyed the rehearsals. But I didn't want to like act like I did, because then I thought, oh gosh, she's gonna make me do another performance now. It's like, I didn't. It was like a double-edged sword. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my start. I remember doing for Diwali, the first performance I did, I think it was like 5 or 6 years old. We did there's a hole in the bucket. There was like a whole dance, and we were in like cowboy outfits, and we had these buckets that my dad drilled holes in, and that was like my first performance.
Wow. So now fast forward a couple of years, you enjoyed the rehearsals, but you didn't want to let on, and you didn't end up starting to study theater or acting in college.
Yeah, no, not until college. I had no interest in acting or performing theater, any of that stuff. But I went to Tufts University. What's that?
What were you planning on doing in college?
I was going to be a doctor, like every other Indian. You're either a doctor or an engineer, right? And if you're like a big failure, you can be a lawyer. Like, that's kind of the range that we have in the Indian community. And so it was like, I was there. I was taking these pre-med classes, all of them. I think the only one I hadn't taken was second semester of organic chemistry, which I was about to take. And my advisor called me in. He was like, you got to take an arts credit or you're not going to graduate. This is a liberal arts school. You're supposed to be well-rounded. So go take an arts credit. And I was just like, okay, well, intro to acting. That's going to be easy. I don't even have to show up to class. And I didn't show up to class. And one of the part of your grade was auditioning for one of the productions, one of the college productions. And so I went and I auditioned for this play called Our Country's Good by Timberlake Wharton Baker. And I ended up getting the part. And I told the guys, like, I don't want to do this. Just sign my paper. And he said, fine, you don't have to do it. I'll find somebody very easily. You're not that great. And, off you go. But he said, this is college. You're supposed to be trying new things. So why don't you give it a shot? And for some reason, I listened to him. Professor's name was Anthony Cornish, this British guy. And I did it. And from the first rehearsal, again, we go back to the rehearsal, from hole in the bucket to now, I loved it. I loved everything about it. And it just changed everything. I did one more production at the school. And then A Winter's Tale. We did Winter's Tale, Shakespeare's Winter's Tale. And he was like, you've got something and you should go to drama school. And I was like, okay, anything but medical school. And so he helped me, prepare my auditions, and I auditioned for a bunch of drama schools, and I got into the Webber Douglas Academy of Dramatic Art in London. And then, I had to tell my parents about that.
Now,
And
yeah, how did that go? Because you had this expectation. They expected, you expected you were going into medicine, and here you are telling them now that you're interested in drama school.
yeah, they were thrilled. But it was a shock. It was a shock to the system. I was very nervous to tell them. But when I finally did, they were unbelievably cool. I mean, they must have been like seething inside, but they were like, okay, if you want to give it a shot, then give it a shot. And they paid for it. They paid for drama school in London. They came to every single performance. All of the public performances that we did in our final year, they flew in to London to see them, and were just unbelievably supportive. Which, let's be honest, a lot of Indian parents wouldn't be. I know lots of Indian parents who haven't been to other Indian actors that I know. So I was incredibly lucky to have them as a support, even after I finished, when I couldn't get arrested, for an acting job. There was just stuff out there that I didn't want to do, and it was stereotypical, and I found it offensive, and I was like, I won't be proud to do it. And they were like, then don't do it. We'll back you up. We'll back you up. We'll help you out. We'll help with the rent. We'll help with insurance. We'll help with all of that stuff. If you've gone through all this and you've risked all this, then do what you want to do. Do work that you'll be proud of, and we'll back you up. So I had that, and 99.99% of actors don't have that. So I was really, really fortunate.
It's a fortunate, unique position to be in.
Yeah.
And I'm curious so you've graduated and you're looking for roles now, but you don't want to be typecast, but you have a certain look and you have a skin color. So things that come your way are maybe certain roles, and things that you're applying for, maybe they're not casting your look. So how did you reconcile that? It supported you even when you didn't have work. And that being said, what were some of the biggest challenges? I mean, opportunities, challenges, things that you really struggled to overcome. Did you ever have a thought, is this right? I mean, am I doing the right thing? Should I stay in medical school?
Constantly. And of course, my parents were always gently reminding me that the average age for starting med school is 26, and you're only 24. So, that's still there. And I was kind of like, maybe it is. Maybe I should just go and do that, every time I would be about to chuck it in, my friends were always telling me, like, just stick with it. Like, all my friends from college who were in New York, they were like, just stick with it. Come on. You got this. And I was like, I really don't think I do. Like, I don't see myself moving forward in any meaningful way. And then every time I'd be about to chuck it in, I'd get something, just a little something, a little spot on a TV show or a play or whatever. And it would be just enough to kind of like tide me. Okay. I'm like, okay, after I finish this job, if nothing comes, then I'm done. I'm not doing it. And something would come. And then finally I was like, okay, if nothing's happened by the time I'm 30, I'm out of here. That's enough. I don't want to be like a, 55, 60-year-old actor, like jobbing and trying to book a Colgate commercial. Like, that's just not what I can't handle that. I love acting, but I don't love it that much. And then when I turned 30, I booked Heroes, and everything changed. I was ready to go. I was ready to pack it in. I was doing a play. The casting director saw me in the play, and brought me in. I screen tested 6 times for the role, and finally got it. And at that point, it was just a pilot. So I was like, the majority of pilots never get picked up. They never see the light of day. I was like, okay, but at least I got a pilot. So if this pilot doesn't go, then I'm done. I'm out. And it got picked up, and we ran for 5 seasons. And then kind of everything just kind of snowballed from there. And I've been working ever since.
It's great.
I'm very lucky. Yeah.
So now you've got a lot of projects going on from the theater to the screen right now. You said you've been working on a Zoom play, but with all of these different obligations, how do you manage to balance family life?
It's tough. I was working in LA on Never Have I Ever last year, and I was working on The Flash for Warner Brothers in Vancouver, and I live in New York. So I was flying. I flew over 100,000 miles last year. You just have to get on planes all the time, which obviously now is petrifying, thinking about getting on planes again. But, this was pre-COVID, and that's what I did. I just flew. I flew back and forth. I must have flown back and forth between Vancouver and New York and LA and New York at least 20 times last year. And yeah, that's what you had to do. That's it. I fly a lot. I know I'm on a first name basis with like most of the flight attendants. They all know me. It's like Norm walking into Cheers every time I walk into a plane. It is what it is. Like, you get to know the TSA staff. You get to know everybody, and you get really good at packing light, knowing how to pack so that you can just do the carry on, and you do it because you gotta get home. I have two kids. I have a wife and two kids, so I try not to be away for more than 2 weeks at a time. That's what we aim for anyway.
You must have a patient wife and understanding kids too, but I'm sure when
Yeah,
you
pretty
sit
amazing.
down, do you get to sit down and watch any of the programming that you do together with them? And do they?
No, I think that I can't watch myself. It makes me want to vomit. It's a really unpleasant experience for me to watch myself on screen. I just don't like it. But I'm happy other people like to watch it, but I can't do it.
Well, among also being part of during a global pandemic, we've had a lot of racial tensions in our country right now.
Hmm.
And how do you have you addressed this? Have you spoken out? What do you think about, this is a lot of tension between Black and white communities. We have a brown community. Have you found something in your role personally, professionally, that addresses racial tensions right now?
Yeah, we thought it was really important for the kids to talk about what was happening, and to try and answer questions if they had questions, and participate. So we went to Black Lives Matters protests. We marched. We went to gatherings. I did a lot of stuff on social media for different groups, to kind of raise awareness about what's happening. And listen, it is an issue. It has been an issue. Unfortunately, it will continue to be an issue, but that doesn't mean that you stop trying. You have to keep trying to move it forward. Just move forward and forward a little bit at a time, and that's what we have to try to do. That's it. New York's like super progressive about this kind of stuff, and but the really heartening thing was to see the marches happening in Texas, which is, the opposite of progressive. It's become, I think, a lot more progressive than when I lived in San Antonio. But it really made me happy to see like the marches in San Antonio and Austin and Houston. Like, I was paying attention to all of that stuff. And we have to keep moving the ball forward, whether it's, 1 yard at a time, 5 yards at a time, 10 yards, every once in a while we're going to get a first down, and, try to keep getting first downs until we get into the red zone and then get in the end zone. That's the goal, right? I don't know what the end zone is. I don't know what that looks like, but I know we're definitely not there yet.
Yeah.
you know
Well, it's part of what we do is sharing culture and knowledge. And it's one of the things that Anuja San Antonio, which was established based on our sister cities with Chennai, has
Mhm.
worked to do through cultural awareness with this Diwali festival. And though you've been away, you probably have observed through your family and your friends and your parents the growth of this festival from being a small thing at the Arneson River Theater in La Vita to now having taken over Hemisphere. We had over 40,000 people last year. And
I
of course,
heard it's the third largest in the world, right? The third, well,
it's
but not outside of India,
yeah,
obviously.
outside of India, it's really the third kind of most recognized. It's the largest city sponsored in the country.
Wow.
Though, of course, there are much larger Indian populations in places like New York, LA, Chicago, but San Antonio has a relatively small Indian population, but the city has sponsored it and it has grown. And in the city center, we have people from all walks of life that are visitors to San Antonio,
That's amazing.
residents that come that happen by it, and they gain that cultural understanding of Indian culture, from costume to dance to song, and the symbology behind lighting the diya, the candle,
Hmm.
and which we're going to be experiencing later today as part of this program. So I think
That's
we'll all
great.
work on our own ways to.
I was trying to explain that the other day to like, like I was like, I guess it's like the Olympic torch. I was like, that's the best I could come up with. I was like, it's like that ish. Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so now here's a question, because you grew up with the Indian tradition and your wife is not Indian. And what about your kids? Do they get to celebrate Diwali, or are they aware of any of these traditions?
They're aware of it. I mean, in where we are in New York, there isn't like a huge celebration or anything, but certainly my parents are very much involved with my kids, you know, being invested in the Indian culture, for sure. It's we don't celebrate Diwali. Quite frankly, I've actually never been home really for Diwali. I'm always off, like somewhere working. But it's something that they're fully aware of, and I think it's important. I think it's important that that all kids know their roots and know what it is, and I think that's why it's important to have these celebrations. Obviously there's huge ones in Queens here in New York City. It's just I've actually never been here to go to it. I would actually love to take them one day. I mean, I don't think this year, to be quite honest. I don't, being around a bunch of people right now does not seem prudent.
Well, they
But
can enjoy our virtual Diwali since nobody's going anywhere.
well, exactly. I hope people are not having like proper huge Diwali celebrations right now. But if I'm able to from LA, I'd like to tune into the virtual one in San Antonio at the very least.
Great.
Yeah.
So speaking of LA, you've got a new project you're working on now that just finished its first season, and you're kind of seeing how's this going? Tell us a little bit about this. Never Have I Ever.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of these things. It was a weird day. They offered me the role of Blood Work on The Flash. So for people who are comic book nerds, he's like one of the coolest villains ever, and I never get to play the villain. And I was like, I want to do that. And it was a big decision just because it shoots in Vancouver, which means I'm away again. And so they offered it to me, and I thought, I can't pass up on this. It's really cool. It's really fun. And then like 4 hours later, Mindy called and was like, I need you to play the dad on my new show. And I was like, I literally just said yes to a job 4 hours ago. And she was like, doesn't matter. We'll work it out. I'll talk to the producers and we'll work it out and we'll fly you back and forth, but will you do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. Of course I will. Like Mindy offered me the role on The Office too. And I would do anything for her. And so I was like, great. I said, yeah, I hadn't even read it. I didn't even know what I was getting into. And then I said yes. And then they sent me the script and I was like, spoiler alert, it's been out for a while now. So no excuses if you haven't watched it. I was dead on the third page. I was like, what is going on? Why did you send me this? And then, kept reading. And then I was like, oh, okay. There's lots of flashbacks where he's, he comes in and it, quite frankly, there was more, but they had to write it down because of the scheduling of flying back and forth between Vancouver and LA for the Flash. So, I was like, great, let's do it. And that's how Never Have I Ever came about. I literally had not even read it when I said yes.
So you're making it a habit of getting killed off. Weren't you killed off in Covert Affairs too? I think you.
Yeah, but at least that was like in the third season. This was on the third page, Sale. I was like, what is happening here? But you know, I was like, I was talking to my friend Milo, and he's on This Is Us. And he's like, dude, I play the dead dad and This Is Us. I'm in all. He's like, it's working great for me. And I was like, yeah, it really is working great for you. I was like, I think this could work out very well for the both of us. Let's go with this. And it blew up. I mean, it blew up. Never Have I Ever. It's been streamed by over 50 million households around the world. So
Wow.
it's one of their biggest hits of 2020 series wise. It was number one in 14 different territories that Netflix streams in, and in the top 10 in every single territory that Netflix streams in.
Wow.
So it's been a massive hit for them. It's been fantastic for everybody involved. So grateful for Mindy, you know, killing me off on the third page and bringing me back and asking me to do this. Like I didn't know anything about the project. I just blindly said yes because of her, and just love everybody involved with it. So
in terms of your character, Mohan Vishwakumar,
mhm.
do you find a connection with yourself, with maybe your father or some?
You know, I found a connection just being a dad. You know, because the Maitreyi's character on the show is 1 year older, I think, than my real daughter. Maybe it's 2 years old. I can't remember how old her character is. But playing those scenes with her was surprisingly easy, just because it felt natural. And if you look at the two, Purna Jagannathan, who plays, you know, my wife, and Maitreyi, like if you look at us together, we look like a family. We look like we're a family. Like even Maitreyi says, she says, you know, you guys look more like we all belong together than my actual family. And so it's been so cool to see like a South Indian family, you know, together on a huge hit show. I mean, it's so great to see. I love it.
Now, you don't watch yourself on screen, but what about your kids? Do they get to watch and criticize you, or?
Yeah, you know, they watch, like my son, who's 12, had zero interest in watching Never Have I Ever, but watched The Flash. You know, was into The Flash. My daughter watched The Flash and Never Have I Ever. But in general, they seem to be pretty uninterested in anything I'm doing. You know,
we see you at home. We don't need to see you on the screen too.
Yeah, they're not. I don't know. I know there's probably part of it is like, well, he had to go away to do this, so I'm not supporting it. You know, it's probably a little bit of that too. But yeah, no. In general, not that into what Dad does.
So when you're not, you know, flying across the country and the continent, and what do you do for fun?
Tennis. That's growing up in San Antonio. I played tennis nonstop. I was a competitive tennis player. I used to play down at McFarland Tennis Center in San Antonio, and you know, that's what I still do. That's my exercise. I play in a USTA league out here in New York, and that's my extracurricular for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
So what's coming up next? What do you have on the horizon? Dream project, if you could name one.
Well, I'm about to start something that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. I'm leaving in like a week or two to start that. And you know, there's a few things floating around right now. It's still very difficult with COVID because you know, it's kind of impossible to socially distance on a set. There's like 200 crew members, and we're all crammed onto a sound stage. It's not great. And the second somebody tests positive, they got to shut the whole thing down for 2 weeks. So the testing protocol is incredibly rigorous. Yeah, there's the thing I'm about to start, and then there's another thing that's actually shooting in New York, which is amazing. That will start in the new year. which I also can't talk about. But the studios are super protective about all that stuff. But I will definitely post about it on social media or something.
Our viewers are going to want to know about all the things that you can't talk about right now. So where can they follow you and find you?
I am on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, so you can check it out. My handle is this is so bad. I don't know what my handle is. Can you find it and put it up?
We sure can. We can put it on there and
okay, that's great. Because I honestly I don't know.
Not as social media savvy as I am.
I'm super not social media savvy, but I do have a team that runs it who's awesome. And they know what the handle is. So if you happen to come across my handle, if you could pop it up on the screen, that'd be great.
And we'll look out for you in future episodes. Do you have a quick best or worst acting experience that you want to share with our viewers? It could be stage, it could be film, it could be something that never happened.
I mean, honest to God, never have I ever has been one of the best acting experiences of my life, because I look around and I just see like a sea of brown people, and that never has happened in my career. And that has been amazing. That has been really, really cool to have been doing. I've been doing this for 20 years now, and it's always me and a bunch of white people. And to look around and just be surrounded by, you know, Indian people, and in particular South Indian people for this show, has been just like such a treat for me. I've never ever experienced that before. I hope it's just the beginning of experiencing that kind of thing. I hope more, because it was such a huge success. I hope that it spawns more stuff and brings in more actors, more writers, more directors. You know, several of the writers on the writing team are South Indian. 2 of the directors were South Indian. So, you know, it's happening. It's happening. It's slow. You always want it to happen faster, but it is happening.
Well, it's a tight script. It's very funny. People who follow Mindy Kaling have seen her stuff and know how funny she is. But
oh yeah,
it drives things home too. I think a lot of people and viewers can have moments that really resonate, whether they grew up here or whether they're raising kids here. So
yeah,
universal in that experience. Well, Sendhil Ramamurthy, thank you so much for joining us. We know you've got a busy schedule. We wish you a very happy Diwali, you and your family.
Thank you, and to all of you in San Antonio, happy Diwali to everyone. And I hope you guys have a great virtual celebration. And I feel really honored that you guys asked me to be a small part of it. So thank you very much.
We were honored. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.